Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Welcome for this second day of the European Blockchain Convention. I'm really happy to be with you this morning. Just so let me introduce myself briefly. I'm Raphaël Bloch. I'm a journalist. I've been in this space now for 8 years. First at Reuters, the press agency, and 2 years ago I co-founded The Big Whale, which is one of the leading crypto media in Europe. So yeah, I'm very pleased to be with you on stage because I think that our panel is really important in the way that we used to work and talk about Web3 for now a while. I think that both you guys are in this space also for a while, and I spent the last 3 weeks in Asia, and I felt like there is more traction for Web3 maybe in Asia rather than in Europe, even if we are all here in Barcelona. So can you just, before we start the panel, introduce yourself, and after I have, of course, many questions for you.
Maybe, okay. It's working. Thank you for the introductions, and thank you everybody for being here and managed to wake up on the second day of this conference early morning. My name is Julien. I'm the head of growth and Web3 lead at DRESSX, with a leading fashion company in Web3 and digital fashion. We've been launching technology and collaboration across multiple digital platforms with various fashion brands, from luxury fashion brands like Dior and Balenciaga to retailers like H&M and Bershka, but also like tech companies and metaverse and video games. We're distributing digital assets across all platforms, enabling people to maintain their digital identities through fashion across digital spaces. And we also bridge, so we're like Web 2 and Web 3 at the same time. It really depends on use cases and needs for the brand, so I'll be able to tell you more during the panel.
Okay, thanks. And Blake?
All right. Hello, everybody, and thanks for having us. And I want to second Julien by thanking you to show up here, because I know you might have stayed out late last night. My name is Blake Lezenski. I'm the head of corporate innovation at Outlier Ventures. We are the biggest Web3 accelerator and investor globally, and I've also had the honor of having led 2 editions of the Farfetch Dream Assembly Accelerator, which was fully focused on using Web3 technology in fashion and luxury, that Julien was a mentor on as well.
Yep. So, guys, let's go straight to the point. Would you say that, I mean, Web3 is still fashion, and after we will talk about, of course, fashion and Web3, but do you think that this is still a main trend, especially in Europe?
So I think it would be smart to maybe start on the definition of Web3, because even though we're all in the space, that definition is ever shifting. And I find that some terms that used to be defined as Web3 might now have their own definitions. So I'm thinking about terms like immersive commerce, an essentially new paradigm of interacting with customers through 3D, helping them visualize products, helping them try on products. That used to be called the metaverse, along with what is now called spatial computing. So I would say 2 years ago, if we would be talking about Web3, those 2 bubbles would fall underneath. But currently, they kind of created their own names. So in that way, some of the Web3 technologies are still very relevant. For example, if we're talking about digital product passports and circular business models it creates, the fact that it can reward royalties to brands has serious implications, because rather than compete over the number of products sold, brands could also compete on the life cycle of the product, shifting the focus away from customer lifetime value to product lifetime value, making the whole industry more sustainable and coming back to the roots of luxury, which is, high quality materials, durability, surviving for generations. Now, anytime it kind of passes on a generation, that product actually becomes more valuable. And of course, there is a huge role that blockchain technologies play in engagement and loyalty. Even though engagement and loyalty programs have been a while for quite some time. And especially community interactions, tracking those community interactions, verification of provenance, of brand IP protection, and finally digital fashion interoperability. So on the surface, you might not think fashion immediately, but if you go deeper into technology, actually it's still crazy relevant.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I would like to come back to this point after, but just would like also, Julien, to have your point on this.
I mean, the thing is like when you're sitting on a panel next to Blake, you have less to do and less to say because he knows everything on the topic already. Yeah, I would just say like working with luxury fashion brands, like the core of our business is to work with luxury and fashion brands. And when you talk with these brands, you understand that the values, like the core values of luxury, are extremely similar to the core values of Web3, which is what Blake just mentioned, which is like sustainability, trackability, scarcity. All of these values are similar to the tech of Web3 and to the core values of a company working in luxury and fashion. So there's a lot of alignment. They used to have some first trials in Web3 for brands with like, the traditional NFT models or the PFPs that were not always successful. And now I think brands are aiming for longevity and long-term solutions.
Okay. And so once again, my last 3 weeks in Asia showed me that for the moment, it's mostly about, finance. So it's about payments, remittances. We're talking about real use cases. Do you have, real use cases in fashion, luxury? Because once again, for the last years, we heard about a lot of projects. For example, in France, we have Lacoste. In Germany, we have also Adidas. There are many brands in this space, but still, we don't see exactly what they are doing and what they expect from the Web3.
I can take this one because I work a lot with Lacoste and Adidas, both of them. So Lacoste had their experience with Web3, launching Underwater and a collection of PFPs and NFTs. And this was also part of this big brands mix Web3 experiences where everybody just wanted to launch and drop stuff. And because there was a few successful use cases, we all heard about those big Apes, Punks, X's, CloneX's, and all these big PFP companies that managed to raise a lot of money at the time. But this fell through, as we can witness right now. And these brands like Lacoste and Adidas had the same experience. They were like, let's just, pick up on the wave, try to get in, launch collections. But these collections had only short-term value and no long-term value. So after a while, it just disappeared and lost its value. So from that lesson learned, brands have shifted into more long-term Web3 strategies and Web3 values, and they are turning and shifting now more into rewarding customers with loyalty programs, for example. So Adidas just announced yesterday, actually, that they are launching an NFT collection on Solana with a company called Step and Go. And this is not just going to be a drop of a digital asset that you collection as a PFP. It's a digital asset that is linked to a loyalty program that enables you to earn credits to then exchange for products. So as long as you manage to bring the Web3 technology into something that is resourceful, but also rewarding for the consumers with tangible value, then it can work on the long term. So I think it's just that this, not just for fashion brands, but for everybody in Web3, it's just shifting from let's try to stop aiming for this short-term money grab into something that actually builds long-term value and build infrastructure around the brand. And in that sense, cases work.
And so Blake, you talked about traceability, things like this. So what's the right balance between traceability, loyalty program? What's the best use cases according to you?
So, I think we already covered some use cases, but I encourage you to take a step back and think about it from first principles. So why do we even say fashion or digital fashion started with blockchain? In the end, it was because of the NFT format. But I truly believe that this is also the place where adoption of NFT technology jumped to the next stage of maturity. What I mean by that is that real adoption is not flashy. It's not putting the name of the technology first and using it as the only differentiator. I always use the example of websites. If I wanted to show you a website on my phone, I'm not saying, hey, look at this HTTP website. Nobody cares that it's HTTP, even though it's kind of obvious. So to me, the real adoption is not when we focus around NFT mechanics first, but actually if we think about the deeper implications of technology. In context of digital fashion and luxury, it's a fact of NFT being able to create digital scarcity, essentially giving a digital object properties that you know from physical objects. And that whole technology kind of pushed to reinvention of what it actually means digital luxury. Because if you cannot touch it and there is no materials, like how do you actually define what is luxury? And following those technology trends, I really came to believe that the new paradigm of luxury is all about two pillars. One is about community. It's no longer just about what you own or what you can afford to own. It's about what communities you have access to, how your values align with the brand, and how you shift your self-expression to kind of match the brands. Also, how the brand can communicate directly with their community using Web3 technologies rather than go through marketing. The second pillar is immersive experience. So nowadays, a consumer that is interacting with a luxury fashion brand, they don't want this interaction to be about the transaction. If I wanted to conduct a transaction, I can just sit in my bathtub, go to an e-commerce website and just buy something. If I don't like it, I would send it back. But if I actually have an interaction with a luxury brand, whether it's digital world or physical world, I expect it to be an immersive experience, preferably one that can be shared in social context to show that alignment of values with the brand and still continue with the idea that fashion is primarily about self-expression.
Okay, and are we still at the stage where brands are just testing Web3, or can you maybe tell us more about live projects that are very relevant on the community side and also, more on the business side?
I mean, I can just jump back on what you just said about community. We had this example last year. We worked with Tommy Hilfiger, and they wanted to do. They came to us for a campaign that had to use NFT, and we were like, no, it's what Blake mentioned. It's like it's not about saying you doing NFTs. It doesn't make you cool or innovative because you're doing it or you're doing Web3. And it was the tendency that brands would be like, Web3 is cool. Like, can we be part of it? And we're like, okay, but why do you want to be part of it? And we ended up switching this into, let's not just do Web3 or NFT launch together. Let's turn this into a community opportunity. So we opened a Discord and we asked communities if they wanted to be a Tommy Hilfiger designer. And to be a fashion designer, you need to actually have fashion skills, design skills, 3D skills. Like it's an expertise. But what we've done is that we gave them access to our AI generation tool, and they all had some pre-prompt to respect for the brand codes. They all generated thousands and thousands of designs based on Tommy Hilfiger brand codes. And we had like 10,000 generations or something like this. And what we've done is that then we launched a community vote. So we pumped Tommy Hilfiger socials and community by doing a community activation and engaging with that. And at the end of the day, Tommy Hilfiger in person, like fucking CEO of Tommy Hilfiger, selected 10 items of that we produced as like digital asset, wearable 3D elements that we minted as NFTs and distributed over 10,000 copies. And we made sure that the community was rewarded in royalties throughout lifetime in transactions fees. So basically, just through this technology activation, any community member became a designer of the brand with compensation on transaction fees from the digital asset. So it's just giving you opportunities for people to engage with the brand at a totally different level. And this is one of the use cases I like to mention because it was a really successful use case in terms of like engaging with the community and bringing Web3 as a value and not just as the short-term grab.
But I mean, it's interesting because every time we talk about Web3 and luxury, it's always about engagement. For example, the example of Tommy Hilfiger is interesting because you mentioned that people will be able to create with the brand. But do you think that everyone wants to create with the brand? Maybe they just want to be, to follow the brand. But maybe this is the problem between Web3 and luxury. We always think that people want to work with the brand, to create with the brand, instead of just following the brand. Do we have other examples of?
I agree. Not everyone wants to create, but I think it's like every time you're supporting a brand, by like even just like liking their post or like engaging with them socially, you should be rewarded as being part of their community and pushing up the brand as a fan. And there's a lot of like Web3 and loyalty. Like this is why loyalty and rewarding programs are like top in like Web3 right now, especially for fashion brands. It's because there is a way for the community to be rewarded for their engagements as fans, and brands now engaging in these programs where you can monitor with Twitter APIs, for example, and some like Web3 tools. You can monitor your social engagement actions and reward them on loyalty brand points that can be exchanged for like discounts or products or private events or fashion shows.
Okay.
And this is how you can turn your community into a real fan base that is rewarded by rewarding you, and the cycle is complete.
Okay. And a question for you, Julien, and after I'd be curious to know your point of view on this, Blake. For the moment, it's still something driven by crypto startups like DRESSX, or it's also in-house. For example, Lacoste, I know that they have a team, but do you think that maybe the next stage is just to have a team in-house for those big corporates? Maybe it will change things?
Yeah, 100%. They all have one now. I mean, when we started 4 years ago, they will have like marketing, innovation, sometimes technology departments coming to us, and we will be like the Web3 team for them. But within a year, everything shifted. Now we have like Web3 managers, head of Web3, chief Web3 officer, like this kind of new titles popping up. But I've seen in like almost every single brand I've worked with, and it really like there's like quasi 100 that we work with in the last 4 years. There's now a Web3 department, or there will be like a metaverse department that has the Web3 component involved, and they have to assimilate this internally. Like they can't just rely on external parties. And I think it's just the curve of innovation. When something is new, you ask for experts around you to like, do POCs and tests. And once you've learned enough, you hire the right people or you build a team internally and you let them do the work. And that's the way you scale the technology as well. And we've seen a lot of like big companies taking shapes. Like we mentioned DPPs before. Like we have Aura blockchain in France that you probably know as well. That is like a consensus of the big luxury fashion groups together.
The competitor.
And Ariani, the competitor as well, which is a French-based company. I mean, Aura blockchain distributed already 40 million unique DPPs, and they have like brands like Margiela, brands like Rimowa, and a lot of luxury fashion houses. So in Europe, this is going to be a regulation, right? So we're going to have in Europe to put DPPs in every single product. So that's why every single brand is going to have to internally assimilate the skills, the knowledge, and the understanding of how to implement it correctly and how to bring value to your consumers. Like DPPs are great because digital product passport enables sustainability and trackability, but how do you make this also a consumer experience? How do you enhance the DPP into not just a chip, but also something that doesn't just give you a certificate of metadata, but probably enhance the product with some 3D elements, wearable with AR, like interoperable item that you can bring into games or metaverses. This is the future of like how you will implement those DPPs for consumer experiences.
And on this, Blake, so you are investing in a lot of crypto startups. Do you think that the future is, around those startups, or more maybe in-house for the corporates?
So I want to go back to what you asked, so to highlight some projects that I think are quite relevant, and Julien is too humble to brag.
But not only in your portfolio.
No, actually only I think I wish more of those examples were in my portfolio. I'm just going to say that. So Julien is Julien is a bit too humble to brag, so I'm going to brag on his behalf. But I think DRESSX is one of those amazing examples, and I'm going to tell you why, because it's also a good learning case. So if you filter like the fundraising rounds for Web3 fashion projects, there is only a few projects that manage to raise larger funds, and I think arguably DRESSX is one of the most successful ones. And why is that? Well, DRESSX has always been, in my eyes, about scalability, starting with the business model. You asked about the distinction being essentially a technology startup or being a fashion brand. Well, if you're a fashion brand, what you're doing is more about storytelling. And then again, there is only so many hours in the day you can design, whether it's digital clothes or physical clothes. With DRESSX, because of the marketplace model, that essentially works for them even when the team is asleep. And now recently they also added AI to the mix, helping with the scalability of digital design. So in that way, that has all the hallmarks of a great technology startup rather than going in the avenue of a fashion brand. Some other examples that I want to highlight. That one is actually in our portfolio. And Julien also didn't tell you that he's part of the Web3 French mafia. Because that ecosystem is very good at working together. So another example is Power XYZ, previously known as Metav.rs. Very smart guys, very good technology builders. They're all about creating high fidelity assets and providing modular components to brands. And believe me, the IP of a luxury brand is the most precious asset they have. So they're very touchy about how we go about that IP. And Power XYZ made a really good job of like keeping the brand calm and making them feel in control about that asset representation. Jump in, do not hesitate. Another example that I want to highlight is D-commerce. D-commerce is from our second Farfetch program, and essentially D-commerce realized that when a brand interacts with their community on social media platforms, essentially all the data insights belong to the social media platform, and they have to pay for engaging their most active supporters. So they just created a very simple solution that enables brands to spin off a community space directly from their website, where they can interact with their community, they know who is the most loyal supporter, they can engage them for free, and they get all the data insights and analytics that would typically belong to the platform. And I think finally, another good example to use, even though maybe it's not strictly fashion, but I think it also shows a lot of hallmarks of a good project, especially in the current time, is Kiki World. So Kiki World is a beauty brand on the surface that recently closed a round of, I think, like 9 million, including A16Z, so very prominent investors. And if you just went to the website of Kiki World, it just looks like a beauty brand. It doesn't position itself as a blockchain startup, because what I call it is Web 2 in the front end, consumer facing, but in the back end, they're actually obsessed about sourcing product ideas and engaging their community and bringing them into product development and tracking all of that input on chain. So in the back end, it's actually a Web3 blockchain powered technology. And I truly believe that's where kind of the secret sauce is. How can you ensure the brand that consumers don't have to learn brand new technologies, but at the same time you leverage the advantages of brand new technologies while keeping it in the back end?
Okay, interesting. And so we have, I mean, all nice pair of shoes. Do you think that in the future it will be all about digital goods, or also, I mean, the tokenization of, you see, a real world asset like shoes and stuff like this? Do you think that it will be a mix, or what's your point of this?
I don't see how it can only be about digital goods, as we need physical goods to dress at some point. No, I think what we believe in as well at DRESSX, and I think that's, and thanks Blake for the shout out, but like what made our kind of scale and growth possible is merging all. So there's no one fits all solution. It's like people are trying to like make it in the metaverse or in 3D assets or AR or VR. Or like just Web3 or just NFTs or just gaming. I think it just has to be a whole, because at the end of the day, it's your identity. So if I go play Fortnite, Web2 game, or if I go into Sandbox, Metaverse, Web3 game, or if I open my wallet, I want my identity to be maintained across all platforms. And I want my digital goods to be interoperable across all platforms. And the only way to do it is to work with like platform like us that has integration everywhere. So we really a bridge, because we integrate with all the platforms, and we can bring Web 2 to Web 3, Web 3 back to Web 2, gaming to Metaverse, Metaverse to AR and VR. And I think that's the ultimate solution, is that you buy something at the store, you go to Louis Vuitton, you buy a jacket, and it's a big piece of fashion, it's a big piece of luxury, and you can wear it outside, but you're not going to wear it every day. And you want this piece to be accessible when you enter a game or you enter a Metaverse or any platforms digitally, because you own it. Why would you not be able to wear it there as well? It's you're the same person. It's your identity.
Julien, we have the technology, but still something is missing. It's more the users. It's more the right program.
A lot of things. It's costly to develop.
It's costly
in terms of production.
How much is it? I mean, for example, I know that you can't reveal about a specific program, but how much is it to launch an NFT collection when you are a corporate?
So it depends on the asset, but I'd say like AR and VR assets are costing a few thousands. Like 3D assets also in the few thousands. As soon as you go down to like more like basic polygon level platforms assets like a Sandbox or Decentraland and all of these Web3 metaverse, you go in the few hundreds. So it has a cost to develop. It's not so scalable at the moment. So you can't just say, oh, we're going to put like all like Zara website e-commerce of like 10,000 SKUs updating every 2 weeks on chain and in digital assets. Like it requires more computing power and lower cost of production, which is happening right now with AI. We have tools right now with AI that we can prompt text to create 3D files. We can snap images, turn them into 3D files. So it's happening right now. I think the technology like advancement is going to be good enough within the next year or two, thanks to AI, and we'll be able to like scale those assets across multiple SKUs of e-commerce, which is what we're doing right now for some of our partners, but we're doing it like as POCs, so collection by collection. Like give me 100 products, I convert them all in a few days, and we have a flat fee for that, and we do it pretty well.
Thank you very much. Final words, Blake?
Yeah, I just want to build on what Julien said. So I encourage you, dear audience, not to really think about it in context, whether it's physical or digital, because we're essentially talking about goods and experiences. And we kind of envision a future where you as the user, you get a physical good and you have a digital representation of that physical good. And the same way you could take a designer dress into your bag and travel to a different country, you could travel across what I call the reality spectrum, which means every type of platform and context, starting with physical, then moving through augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, virtual commerce, gaming, all the way to IRL, where you as the user have the goods kind of linked to you rather than to the platform, and you can seamlessly move with them across different digital contexts and within different digital representations. And I really believe that is the future, those goods moving from the physical world across digital experiences rather than primarily thinking of them as rather physical or digital.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. A big round of applause for them. And if you have any questions, feel free to...
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Raphaël.